I postulate that everybody who has achieved some level of success has done so by accident. If you look at the people that you believe are successful, that you hold up here and say, that's a successful person, if you look at their story, if you read about their story, if you listen to their story, I believe the majority of them, you're going to find somewhere in there that they'll say something like, it kind of happened by accident. Or, I wasn't looking for this, right? The success came because they were in the right place at the right time. They didn't set out in life to become where they are successful now. It came by accident. So, if that is so, then how can you get to the point where you can bring success to your life by accident? It's hard for me to write all of these ideas because they're so fluid in my head and they exist and they're there, but it's clumsy to try and take that information out of my head and put it down typing or even dictating to try and make it make sense in a format that has punctuation seems to be difficult. Often when these ideas come to my mind, it is during meditation, in the early morning, before I get busy, or at night when I'm heading to bed, or like right now when I'm driving and have time to think. And so now's my time. So anyway, with that introduction, wouldn't it be nice if you could learn to bring success to you almost by accident? I want to tell you that that is a possibility. And this is my take on the idea of creation and creating your own reality. This comes from meditation, faith, belief, religious beliefs. I mean, there are so many different aspects, different ideas out there about how to create your life. And one idea, or shall we say a term that has become fairly common and accepted and popular these days, is the law of attraction. And I do believe that there is a law of attraction, a universal law, a law that exists. And we're not talking about man's laws. We're not talking about codes of conduct like the speed limit. You know, that's not a law. That's a code of conduct. You can break that without consequences. People do it. Millions of people do that every day. And sometimes there are consequences, but I would say it's not because you're breaking a law, a universal law. It's because of multiple decisions that go hand in hand with breaking that code of conduct. But a law, in my mind, is something that you can't really break. It is there as an underlying structure of the universe. Okay? So let's look at faith as a verb, faith as an action. Faith is not believing, it's not simply believing something. It's not having a belief in something or a belief about something. Faith is more than that. True faith is the creation of matter, creating something or manipulating matter, making a change that is apparently physical. So some examples that we know of in a Christian world is the creation of the world. God spoke and it was. That is the action of faith. That is faith in action. Changing water to wine, walking on water. These are things that are faith-induced actions. These are things that are happening because of acting in faith or acting on faith. Okay? And one of the things that has always fascinated me, or for many years, shall I say, always know, when I was a baby and just learning here on this earth, wasn't necessarily on my mind, right? But as I started learning in life, one thing that has fascinated me for many years is this idea of miracles. And I was raised Christian, and so of course that's what I have in my mind and my culture is the idea of biblical miracles. And what I find fascinating about it is not that people were healed, but the fact that Christ stated after healing people, Yeshua, according to the scripture writings that we have, he always stated that it was done by their faith. He didn't take ownership of it. He didn't take credit for it. He didn't say, I have healed you. He said, your faith has healed you. And to me, that's fascinating because I believe there's a truth there that in today's world, today's Christian world especially, at least in the Christian world that I've been surrounded by for the most part, there is not true faith. There isn't faith to heal. Most people do not believe that they can change matter. Most people do not believe that they can change water to wine, or that they can heal a broken bone, or heal from a disease or a disability. Most people don't believe that. Now, I feel differently, that I believe this really can be done, and it comes from within the individual, partly because I have experienced it myself, this healing, and partly because I have been involved in helping others find that healing from within themselves as well. And so I've seen that happen enough, and I've heard enough accounts about it in addition to what I have personally experienced to know that there is a truth there. So taking that into account, recognizing that Christ said the healing comes from within you every time that he performed a healing according to the records that we have, and seeing the experiences that I've had in healing myself and assisting in healing others, tells me that there is some incredible potential within us. So how do you tap into creating miracles? How do we tap into drawing success to us? And that is what I love to expound on and love to teach now, because I coached. I used to do coaching for people who were starting a business and mostly online businesses. Now I've taught people how to do real estate investing. I started years ago with teaching people how to broker real estate notes, and then moved into online businesses and eBay and Amazon and websites and marketing and all that kind of stuff. And along the way, I have found myself falling into success many, many times. And success by accident has become my mantra, and I decided to write the book titled Success by Accident after going to a self-improvement boot camp and talking about some of the successes that I have had in business. And I'd like to establish success a little bit here too. But as I was at that boot camp, the facilitator made a comment and said, it's almost as though you have found success by accident. And that really stuck in my brain, and I locked onto that and I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, that's true. That is so true. And then I thought, well, why? Why is that? Why have I been able to stumble into successful ventures? Why have I been able to find these successful opportunities and thrive in them? And another question that comes right on the heels of that is, why did so many of these successful ventures eventually go away or apparently fail. What was the difference that happened there? And so as I'm coaching and teaching people to start their own business, I started to recognize that the reason they were failing, the reason they were not seeing success in what they were trying to do, I think it's honestly 100% of the people who did not find success, it was because of their emotions and thought process. And there is so much that goes into this. I used to think of it as simply your attitude. And attitude encompasses the way you think, the way you act, your belief system, all of that. In my mind, that's your attitude. Your personality is based on so many aspects, right? So growing up, that was my thought pattern on it. Over time, I've changed that idea to, and I think part of it is just to accommodate the culture. And we went through a time where people stopped saying attitude because it was being taken negatively. You don't have the right attitude. And people object to that and take the term attitude as good or bad, and then become defensive if they're told they don't have the right attitude. They're basically saying, oh, you're saying I've got a bad attitude, right? And then they get a bad attitude, and then they're not teachable anymore. And it's funny and kind of ironic how that happens so often with us as human beings. I do it. I still do it myself. I think we all have that inner ego where we want to be the one who knows, right? And being told by somebody else, being critiqued by somebody else, triggers a defensive mechanism inside us. And it's unconscious, it's subconscious. It's not something that we're always consciously doing, but the more we can become conscious of it and the emotions around it, the more we can control that and learn from these criticisms instead of taking offense to the criticisms. So let's set some foundation details here first so that we can kind of know what we're moving toward. First, if we want to create success in life, and especially if we want to bring success by accident or seemingly by accident, be in the right place at the right time, serendipities, right? How do we do that? Well, before deciding how do we do that, we have to define success. And so I think that is crucial first, to recognize that there are many levels of success, there are many types of success, and most often when people discuss being successful, they're talking about physical things, they're talking about money, they're talking about financial success in life. Okay, that's what most of the time we are talking about when we say being successful or becoming successful. It has to do with having money so that we can have the things, the comforts, the whatever it is that we want, right? So define first what is success. And as I have grown and studied and learned in life, what I have come to determine is success is not limited to financial. It's not limited to money. Yes, there are financial successes, absolutely. If your goal is to be successful with a business or a company or an invention or providing for your family or whatever that, if there's a monetary goal and you succeed at achieving that, well, that should be seen as a success. But it is not necessarily success in itself, right? So what is success? So if we were to take just the basic Webster dictionary definition of success, which has probably definitely changed over time. But in general, the word success in English means to accomplish a goal. to achieve something, right? So that's success. So at the base, the foundation, that's success, to achieve something. Okay, so now let's look at the different areas where we can be successful or feel successful in life. Of course, we've talked about money. Having the money is a level of success, a type of success. Well, let's dig deeper and let's start asking why. Why do you want money? Why do you feel that having money means success? At the heart of it, if we drill it down, we say, if we're honest about it, what we're going to say is having money allows me to travel, to go to the places that I want to go, to see the things I want to see. Okay, so monetary success brings opportunities, it brings experiences, right? So is it the money to do those things that is the success, or is it the doing the thing that is the success? And so I would argue that closer to the heart of the matter of what success is, it's not so much the money, it's what the money brings you. And so a step closer is success is achieving that goal of travel, or maybe it's a car. You want a certain car, okay, achieving the goal of the car. Or maybe it is a house, right? Maybe it's a home for your family. Maybe it's a homestead. Maybe it's a certain house with a barn, right? So achieving that goal, that's a level of success. But let's dig a little deeper. Why? Why do we want that house? Why do we want that car? Why do we want that vacation? Why? And this goes deeper to another question of what is that giving to us? And I would say that is giving us an emotional response. It is creating an emotion in us. So having this experience, whether it's the car, the house, seeing the money in the bank, the traveling, whatever it is, that experience is something that helps you create a feeling or an emotion, which is simply a release of chemicals in the brain that gives us a feeling, okay? That's what an emotion is. So the success then isn't the money, it isn't the experience, it's the feeling that we get because of that outcome. So now we're getting a little closer to the heart of what success is. So first we have to decide what is success. And we get to that definition by asking why, all the way down from the level of achieving something and then understanding why we like that achievement, okay? So define success. And I think what success comes down to is positive emotions such as happiness, peace, joy, ecstasy. These high emotions, that's why we seek success. So in my mind, that is success, okay? What we are looking for is to feel peace, to feel joy, to feel happy. That is what we are looking for when we seek success. Okay, so now let's look at what are the different things the different ideas of success. So of course, achieving lots of money or material things that money can buy is success. Traveling and having those experiences is success. Raising a family is success. Raising a family of human beings who contribute in a positive way to society, to humanity, is success. Okay? Being a positive person in humanity is success. So success is so much more broad than the little boxes that we seem to put it in. So sometimes there might be a box of success is achieving money, millionaire, right? Millionaire, maybe billionaire, success. That's success, billionaire, okay? Having a yacht, success. The Lamborghini, success. Owning a business that is successful. Well, what does successful mean? Providing products, quality customer service, is that success? Making large amounts of money for the business, is that success, right? There are all these different levels, but what it comes down to is the thing we are looking for when we seek to achieve something is a feeling. What we are looking for is the emotion that comes after achieving something. So as I look back at the successes I've had in life, what I boil it down to is I lived in such a way that I believed good things would happen. So I feel that I lived faith without truly understanding the action part of faith. And yes, I believe that can be done. We can be successful. We can achieve great things without truly understanding how it happens, all the mechanics behind it, the laws, how the universe, how God makes it come together. We see this kind of achievement all the time. So first, let's define success, and I think it comes down to the feelings or emotions that are created within. Now we can look at how to achieve that. And what I was seeing as I looked back and kind of evaluated my life was that I was living with a belief system of faith being such that everything will work out. I'll have my needs met. I don't know how it's going to come, but I'll have the money I need to pay my mortgage. I'll have the money I need to put food on the table. Okay? So I think that this is at the core. This is a low level, in my opinion, of acting faith, of believing in such a way that you attract positive things. If you believe that positive things will come, then you are opening. There are two things that happen here. One, you are sending a signal out to the universe, out to God, to the angels, to source, whatever you want to say. You're sending out the signal that I know I will receive. Okay? You're sending that signal, I know that I will receive. So that's low level acting on faith. The next thing that we have there is when you open yourself up, when you send that signal out, you are opening yourself up to receive that thing that you're looking for. It might be a certain job that you're looking for, or an entry into a career. That might be what the opportunity that comes your way. So you're opening up your life, yourself for those opportunities. So let's go back to the emotion of it. As I have continued to grow and learn and look back at when I achieved things, when I believed it would come, it happened. Okay? And give you an example of this. There was a time in my life where I was newly married, and let's go back. Let's go back before that. 1996, 23 years old, young, dumb, and naive kid. Exploring life and living on my own, and trying to make a go of it and make things happen. Wasn't always rosy. There were difficult times. There were struggles. There were jobs gained, jobs lost. Incredible amounts of income that just I happened upon, and just to lose it within a week sometimes. And these things came and went. But then I met this girl. one night in the glow, the yellow glow of the porch light, this beautiful light brown hair, nice and long, just a beautiful face, green eyes, which I loved. She was gorgeous. I fell in love. And it was, for me, love at first sight. So we went back to my apartment, the four of us, the friends that introduced us, and her and I, and we had a late dinner and got to know each other a little bit. And then we spent time together every day for 2 weeks. And we had a wonderful time, and we were really getting closer and coming to know each other. And then we're sitting on the couch one night and watching a serious action TV show, Braveheart of all things, and I hear this voice in my head. Not an audible voice, but just, those thoughts that come sometimes, and this thought was, you love her. And it kind of got my attention, pulled me out of the interaction of the TV that I was watching, and I thought, what? And the voice came again, the thought, you love her. And I thought, no, I've only known her, a couple of weeks, right? And all this communication, it was probably more than that I can't really explain, but each time it was me the first time, and the second time, no, why is this thought happening? What's going on? And then the third time, stronger, you will love her. And it was such an intense emotion, experience, voice, if you will. It was so intense and so real to me. And I recognized, yes, it's true. And at that moment, I laughed, I smiled, and I laughed out loud. Well, it was just her and I sitting here on the couch watching this show, and it wasn't a funny show. And I'm laughing, and she turns to me and says, "What are you laughing about?" And so I told her. That's the bright thing to do, right? So I told her, I love you. Well, she got scared. That didn't turn out all that great, and she kind of started putting some distance between us. Unfortunately, she'd been married before. She had a 5-year-old daughter. She was nervous about this. We'd only known each other 2 weeks, as I told myself, or whoever was speaking to me, right? And so all of a sudden she started distancing. No, I'm not right for you. You need to go find somebody else. I was thrilled about the idea of loving her, caring for her daughter, being a father right away, having a family. That's all I wanted. So I was crushed. My heart was crushed. She told me to take a hike, and I was devastated for at least a couple days, right? No, it was longer than that. It took me a while, and I felt impressed that I was to get married this year. And so I tried to go out and start dating other people, and I asked a few other girls out, and I spent a lot of time in depression, and she wouldn't return my calls, and so eventually we just kind of dwindled to where we weren't communicating anymore. She was dating other people, I started dating other people, and September came along. We'd met early summer, and now it's heading into fall, and late September, 28th of September, 1996, and I had a day off. It was a Saturday, and it was beautiful outside, and I felt like, the wind is changing, fall's coming, winter's coming. This is probably going to be my last opportunity to get out and enjoy a nice hike. And I used to love to hike back then. I still love to hike. I love nature. I love the wilderness. But at that time, 23 years old, I loved rock climbing. And I had a body. I was built, and I had muscles all over the place that I don't have anymore. But I loved to boulder, and I loved to rock climb. But I didn't have all the equipment, couldn't afford it at the time, or didn't put my money into it. So I decided to go take a hike, and I called all of my friends, everybody I knew, to try and get somebody to go with me, and couldn't get anybody to go with me. And it was getting in the afternoon, and I realized, you know what, I just need to go if I'm going to enjoy this weather. So I went up to Rock Canyon in Provo, and went up past Red Rock, a rock face where they did a lot of rappelling. learning how to rappel. Wasn't quite completely vertical up there. And I went up above that and started hiking up above the trail. The trail's going down in the canyon. I'm up above on the rocky ridges and on the mountainside because I like to challenge, right? And so I'm up there looking down at the lowly people down there on the trail, the commoners, and I'm up here enjoying the fresh air and the wind and the birds and the animals and nature and just loving the hike. And I don't know, maybe 2.5, 3 hours into that, I decided to start climbing a little bit. And I saw a cliff face here and I examined it and I saw, I think I can do that. I can go here and there and felt confident. And if I had any water, I'd drink it all and didn't have any left. And so hours into my hike, I decided to climb this cliff. And so I start scaling the cliff and get almost to the top, as I've told people. And I don't have a memory of this anymore. I only have the memories of the stories I told right after it. But it seems that I was almost at the top and the rock came out in my hand. That was my memory of it is I grabbed with my left hand the rock right at the top and I was free floating in the air, falling away from the cliff face, nothing I could do. And I fell about, the reports say anywhere from 50 to 70 feet down the cliff face and then hit the rocks at the bottom and tumbled down the rock slide another, I don't know if it was 25 yards or 250 yards, but it was enough to rip up most of my clothing, rip open my pants, lose my wallet, lose my knife that I had on my belt, lose my keys, all that was gone. Road rash from head to toe, shirt ripped up. I mean, I was a mess. Fortunately, somebody was up there hiking and saw me fall. 4 friends, 3 of them called the 4th and said, hey, let's go do something today. And he said, no, I don't want to. I'm going to stay at home. And as he's sitting at home, they're getting ready to go, deciding, should we go up to the canyon and hike, or should we go down to the lake and watch the sunset? And he's at home feeling like, I need to go. And he just had this prompting, this continued urge of I need to go. And so he decided to call his friends and say, okay, I'll come, and they picked him up and they decided to go up Rock Canyon where I was. And so they're hiking up, and then this friend that wasn't going to go tells the other 3, hey, I'm going to stop here for a minute and just contemplate. I'm going to sit on this boulder. You guys go on up and I'm going to wait here. So they start continuing up the trail a bit, and he's sitting on this boulder and hears rocks fall and looks up behind him and sees me going headfirst over a cliff. And had he not been there, I'd probably still be up there. They may not have ever found me with the location of where I was. Nobody would have known. But he saw me, he called and said, hey, somebody's fallen, somebody fell off a cliff, we got to go help. And the friends didn't believe him at first, and he convinced them to come back, and 2 of them went up to find me, and 2 of them went down to call 911. This was before the days of cell phone. And so they come up and look at the base of the cliff, and I'm nowhere to be found, right? And this other friend is probably thinking this guy's just pulling his chain, you're not, this isn't really happening, whatever. And no, I saw somebody fall, he's got to be here. And they start walking down the rock slide looking for me, and that's when they found me quite a ways away from the cliff, down the rock slide. From my understanding, sitting on the edge of another 200-foot fall. And so that helps me pin down perhaps where this could have been, because there can't be that many locations like that 2 hours walk away from the opening of the canyon, right? But I never have found where it is. So they got to me, and I was begging them. I was bleeding all over, having a hard time breathing, but felt that I was on another precipice, about to go over. I told somebody apparently that my mother, who had died when I was 16, had stopped me from falling further. And I can't figure out who I shared that with, but I have it written in my journal from the time. And so I was begging them, move me away from this cliff. I don't want to fall further. And they're arguing with me saying, no, we shouldn't move you. It could cause more injury. And, they're probably freaking out. I'm just a bloody mess and flesh torn all over the place and head swelling up. And finally, I convinced them to move me to a different location. And they moved me just enough that I wasn't on the edge of the cliff. And then they took off their shirts to try and stop the bleeding in the worst places that they could see and waited for help. Life flight was sent out from multiple locations. Ambulance were sent to the canyon. They couldn't land where I was because of the location. And so they had to drop the team from the helicopter down onto the mountain, and they had to hike to me. And so they brought their equipment to me. And meanwhile, my father at 6:30, 6:45 p.m. up in Idaho gets a phone call that this has happened. Your son fell. We don't have any further information. We're on site trying to rescue him. The first responders are out there working with him right now. We'll let you know when we have more info. Well, an hour or so goes by for him, and he's wondering what's going on. Is my son dead, or has he been saved? And he puts in a call to the Provo Police Department and says, can you give me an update? And they say, no, we don't have any more information. They haven't gotten him off the mountain yet. They're still up there. We don't know any more details. So he's up here in Idaho worrying, hours away, and they're telling him, we don't know. We'll call you as soon as we know. And 10 o'clock rolls around, and he calls again. No, we don't have any information. And so it's been 4 hours here, and finally around midnight to 12:30 in the morning, he gets a call that I am in critical condition in the ICU down in Provo. They finally got me to the hospital. It took them around 6.5 hours to get me off of the mountain. So I was the type of person that I always wanted to get back up. I always wanted to step back in to something when I had a failure. And so when I'm laying in the hospital, head swollen to twice its size, unrecognizable, caretakers all around me, on a bed that was moving side to side just to keep my punctured lungs from filling with fluid so I wouldn't die. My dad finally made it down to the hospital and sitting by my bedside there, and one of the first things I say to him is, I'll get back up there, Dad, because I loved rock climbing. And so in my mind, this was just an experience and part of my story, and my goal was to get back at it, to get back out there, to get back on the horse, right? That was who I was. Well, my father, who just about lost his son and wasn't sure if his son was alive 24 hours earlier, 12 hours earlier, heard me say that, and he gave me the feedback that was the worst feedback I feel like I've ever gotten on something, because he said, you do, and you won't have to fall. I'll kill you myself. And that hurt me at the time, that like pierced my heart. And I thought, come on, Dad, well, where's the motivation? Where's the support, to tell me to get back out there and get back on the horse, so to speak. But years later, as I talked to my father about this, and with tears in his eyes, he explained from his point of view the experience and how harrowing this was for him, and believing that he'd lost his son. I understood what he was going through, and why that comment from me brought out the comment from him that it did. And so in hindsight, I have a different understanding of the situation. I tell you this story because as I go back and look at my life, this is one of the first major points where I can see success by accident. Now, unfortunately, it was a big accident. It was a very painful accident. And this isn't usually what I refer to when I talk about success by accident. Success by accident, I mean being in the right place at the right time. Well, perhaps I was in the right place at the right time here, because you know that girl, that green-eyed girl that told me to take a hike, which I finally did? Well, she heard about me on the news, or her mother heard about me on the news, and she looked into it and found out, oh yeah, that's the Mike Wood I was dating. And now when she would go to a movie on a date with some other boy, all she could think about was me. And so that got her, thinking a little bit and wondering and worrying about me. And I was in the hospital down in Provo for, I don't know, a week or two down there, and had multiple broken vertebrae, they said, and I needed to be sent up to the U in Salt Lake to a specialist, because they didn't have anybody down there to take care of me. And they sent me up there, and I that was the worst ambulance ride, the worst ride I've ever had of my life, because every little bump I felt it. Unfortunately, through this experience, I found out that I was allergic to morphine. And so they had to use other painkillers, and these other painkillers that they used with me gave me terrible nightmares. And so it was just a horrific experience. Well, they get me up there at the U, and I think the next day take me in for x-rays. And meanwhile, I've had lots of prayers, lots of faith on my behalf, lots of positive energy going out, right? And it turns out I don't have broken vertebrae. I've got just hairline fractures that appear to be quite well healed at this point. So miracle number one, somebody was there to see me fall. Miracle two, I was able to get to the hospital. Miracle three, my back isn't broken, and I'm healing quite well. Well, the next thing that happens here is I've got to have a place to go. I was in an apartment that had a narrow staircase, steep, narrow, going downstairs, and the doctor said, we can send you home, but you can't move. You're going to have 24 around-the-clock care. And so you need a place where you have minimum steps. Either it's straight in and you've got a bedroom and a bathroom, or 3 or 4 steps down and a bedroom and a bathroom right next to it. And the girl I was dating at the time had a situation like that, and I asked her, and her parents were like, no way. And the other person I knew who had that particular situation was Julia, this girl that I had met. And she was living with her grandma in her grandma's basement in a split level, so three steps down, bathroom, bedroom. She had her bedroom and then her daughter's bedroom. And I contacted her and I said, do you think your grandmother would be open to this, okay with me coming there to heal? And can we get some friends to help out, because I'm going to need 24-hour round-the-clock care? And so she got in motion, and she contacted the friend that had introduced us was my roommate. So I don't know if they contacted each other, but somehow they worked it out. I got to go in a place that the doctor recommended to be healed. I had 24-hour round-the-clock care from strangers that I didn't know, and lots of friends, of course, that I did. And for a few weeks there, I had to just lie flat on my back, except to be helped to the bathroom to bathe or to go to the bathroom. And during that time, she was doing a lot of the care. And we developed a friendship. We weren't romantic, but there was at least a friendship built back up there, and a relationship, and we kind of built a closer friendship together there. Well, after I was able to get to a point where I could get up on crutches and take care of myself, I moved out, and I was able to get to my own apartment again, another place similar to or close to where I was. And long story short, shorter than it could be, I guess, we were married early that next year. So whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes, take the fall. I was able to achieve success of the marriage to the woman of my dreams, and we're still married today. Now, that story is one that I love to share, because it was an experience that I had that was painful, that was difficult to go through, but because of that accident, we were brought back together. And that love was able to build. And nowadays, she'll actually say she loves me back sometimes. So that was one of the first experiences that I saw. Now, there were others before that I didn't really recognize. But as we continued in our marriage and our family, I started to see other experiences come about. I decided to go to school for learning computer technology. Computers were becoming more of a thing back then. This was, again, late 90s. We got married in 97, and so 98, 99, I had to go through chemotherapy for cancer. That's a whole other story there that I had to go through and overcome. But I did, and I would prefer the fall off the cliff to the chemotherapy. Personally, it was awful. Constantly being nauseous during all the treatment, not being able to do anything or move because of just sickness, and that nausea was horrific. So we get married, and I go to school for computer technology, and she's working and supporting us, and it got to a point where we couldn't afford to live and have me go to school. So I dropped out before completing my degree. Well, it wasn't long after that I heard of a job opportunity when I was looking for a job, and a friend of mine who I knew from a previous work experience contacted me and said, "Hey, there's this computer tech support company that I work for that is hiring. And you might have enough background if you work at it to be able to get a job here." And so he taught me a few of the basics, said you need to learn how to build and rebuild a computer. You need to understand the hardware. You need to learn as much as you can about DOS and Windows 95. And so I installed Windows 95. I got a computer. I installed Windows 95. I tore that computer apart. I formatted. I reinstalled. I learned how all the parts went in, how to reseat the cards, and I built and rebuilt that computer over and over and over, installed and reinstalled Windows over and over and over, learned DOS commands, learned Windows 95, learned a lot more than what I had in college just by hands-on experiencing it, and then went in for the interview and was able to pass the test that they had and get the job. Well, it was interesting to me, and this is where I started rethinking life and how things really happen and what comes about, because I always believed if I can't get the right education, then I'm not going to succeed in life. If I can't have a degree, this piece of paper that says diploma you have achieved, right, then I'm not going to have the best jobs. Well, I looked around me at this job that I got without having the degree, and I had just a small amount of student debt instead of the large amount for the full education. The same people that went through the full course there at the college were working at this job where I was working. And that really got me to start thinking and recognizing it's not necessarily about the diploma. It's not about the education. There are still opportunities out there. There are still ways to learn things, to gain that education without having a piece of paper, and you can still succeed just like those who have the piece of paper. So that really got me thinking. That is where I started recognizing. And then while I was at that job doing support and learning more, because they were teaching me too along the way. So that was fantastic. I was into the job. I had learned how to rebuild and build computers. I learned how to format and reinstall Windows and how to work with Windows. And now I was learning more about supporting that and then the applications that can come in, the software and different things that can be put into the operating system and antivirus and learned how to do support on that. And so I was learning so much. And while I was there were times when things were slow, when we didn't have calls coming in. And while we did oftentimes learn and grow and do more to understand the business and the coaching that we were, or the consulting that we were doing, there were some times that we had downtime. And during this downtime, one of my friends that worked there came to me and said, hey, there's this new company online. It's an online auction, kind of a yard sale / auction website called eBay. And people go on there and put things up for auction, and then other people can come in and bid, and whoever ends as the highest bidder at the end of the auction has to buy it. And being dumb kids, he said, you know, if you're bored, it's kind of fun to go in there and just bid things up a little higher and, you know, push that up, and then somebody else ends up buying it. And so we're goofing around, and I found this lot of 6 Dell computers. And I got in there playing around, kind of laughing, you know, I'm going to push this bid up, and I kept going up, and it was up to $600. And I thought, okay, I'll step out of that. Somebody's going to have to pay $600 on that. Whoa. You know, and of course I knew in the back of my mind, I think I had enough knowledge of what the computers were that I thought, okay, there's a little risk here. If I'm the winner, I could probably at least break even on this, right? But I didn't think that was going to happen. Well, unfortunately, the auction ended, and yes, I was the high bidder. And so I was responsible for buying these computers. Well, this was one of those success by accident opportunities. I could decide what to do. And this is what I'm talking about when I say success by accident in life. Opportunities will come, and you get the opportunity presented, then you get to decide, am I going to go this way or am I going to go that way? You choose the direction, and there are an infinite number of possibilities all the time in our life, right? There's so many different actions that we can take that affect our life, and it might be small things. It might be a slight delay that takes us on a different route or traveling a different way or different road or whatever, right? Different time and meeting different people. Well, this was one of those times where I looked at it and said, okay, I could decide not to buy this because I really can't afford it. $600 at the time was 2 weeks worth of pay. I don't have money just sitting around. That would be a little bit difficult for us. I could just not pay and walk away from this eBay thing. Or I could do what I believed was the right thing and pay for it, and then rebuild these computers and resell them and hopefully break even on it. And I decided that was the right thing to do, and that was what I was going to do because that's the way I was raised. And so that's what I did. I paid for these computers and then immediately went to work researching. I was in the right environment, right? What is the computer? What is the hardware that works with this computer? How do we fix it? What are the common errors that are there? And again, internet was young back then, but I had enough information at my fingertips being in the job that I was in because of the person that I happened to know, right? All these things that led up to this. And I started looking at yard sales and thrift stores for the computer parts that I might need to fix what was going on with these. And I communicated with the seller and said, do you know what needs to be fixed on these? And he gave me some feedback and information on what was needed. And so I prepared. By the time those computers landed on my porch, I had the parts that I thought would fix it and hoped that they were good because I hadn't tested them, right? And I had gone into eBay and created individual listings, 6 individual listings. Instead of selling it as a lot, I thought, okay, maybe I can make more if I sell these as individual computers that are running instead of computers that need repair. So that's what I did. I went to work and I had these auctions waiting. All I needed was the photo, right? All the details there, and maybe a few details from the parts I was going to put in. So I got the computers, I got the parts, pulled it together. I started working on them and fixed the first one. Sure enough, it works, it boots up. Fantastic. All right, that one's up, auction up, right? Started on the second one, and it turns out that after I was able to do the repairs on these computers, not only did I break even, but I made a profit on this accident that came through. And that got me thinking. Now again, this is an opportunity. Here I could look at this and say, whew, wow, I dodged a bullet there. I made my money back, and I now I can pay the bills. Never do that again, right? Or I can look into this eBay thing and see, is there some possibility there? Is there something more that I could do? And that's what I decided to do. I decided to look into this a little deeper. And so 1999 was when I accidentally started on eBay, and shortly thereafter I found some wholesale sources and started buying things wholesale and selling them on eBay and doubling my money. I thought that was pretty nice, and so I started building up inventory and selling things on eBay. And I've sold so many different things and had so many different success stories that have come because of that accidental opportunity of eBay. And many of these are still bringing me income today. Back at that choice, if I hadn't chosen to learn about computers, if I hadn't chosen to take that job, if I hadn't known the guy who gave me that job, right? If I hadn't chosen to pay for those computers, I wouldn't have what I have today. So I think the core of bringing success to you, one of the core principles is to have first a true belief within your heart, to truly feel that it will work out, that you will have success, that you will have your needs met, that you will have your wants, that you will receive what it is that you desire. That's the first thing, okay? The second part of it is when opportunity knocks, when the opportunity is presented, you take the leap, you take the lunge, you take a risk. You're willing to put in the effort, right? So that sends out another message. So first we're sending out a message to the universe. We're sending out a message to God. I believe that I will receive. I believe that I already have. And you feel that emotion in yourself so strongly that it might as well already be there because you're already happy. Now, I think that's important. This is not about thinking something into existence and feeling that it will never come. Those are opposites. You can't be in despair and feel it's never going to happen. Why doesn't it happen? You can't slouch like this and think like this and receive. That isn't how it works. The law of attraction is based on your truth within. True faith is believing, truly believing that it's here, that it's coming. You're already healed. You already have the thing. That's how this works. And as I have gone through the different experiences in life, I've noticed that there were times when things tanked. The first thing that I started selling wholesale on eBay worked really well for a year or two. And I was starting to build inventory and things were working great. And then disaster hit the world, 9/11. My business stopped. Dead in the water, all this inventory in the garage, I can't sell it. I can't move it. And so I had to shift. So again, an opportunity here. I can take failure and walk away and say, never doing that again, that hurt. Or I can pivot and say, all right, what now? Where's the next opportunity? And that's what I did. And I started looking for other things and found other accidental opportunities and other great things that came my way because I was open to the opportunity. So believing in your heart that good things will come is one of the first steps to achieving it. Feeling that you already have it. If you can get to that point where you already have it, then everything's going to come your way. So let's go back and let's discuss this. What we talked about is what is success? Is it the car? Is it the money? Is it the house? Is it the vacation? Is it the family? Why do we want those things? And that comes down to a feeling, an emotion that we have. Now, all of you are feeling something right now. All of you are feeling something currently. You have emotions, you have feelings in your body. And you're feeling something right now. Now, hopefully, because of what I've talked about and the experiences I've shared, you're feeling a little bit of maybe an uptick. I'm hoping that's what you're feeling. And if you're feeling that emotion is already there, maybe you're thinking of something you want to do, something you want to achieve. You're thinking of somewhere that you want to be, something that you want to have, right? And you're feeling a strong emotion that it can happen. Well, when you can take that feeling a step higher, to meditate on it, to focus on it, to believe that it is coming, that you might as well be happy as though you have it because it's already here. That emotion is what will align you with the experience to bring the thing. Now, I think something that is really important to look at here is to recognize that if our focus is on lack, if we are saying, I need this thing in order to have this feeling, that's a disconnect. That's not faith. Okay, so again, it's not using God or the universe as a genie and begging for something, saying, I believe it, please give it to me. Right? That's not what we're talking about here. What's the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal of the family, of the vacation, of the trip, of whatever this is outside of us, is to build an emotion within us. So if you live your life already happy, if you decide to be grateful today, not what can I be grateful for? Oh, all right, well, I'll do this activity and I can be grateful for electricity. I can be grateful for my car. I can be grateful that I have a roof over my head. I can be grateful that I had food today. No, it's not about that. Take out the thing. It's not about being grateful for something. It's about being grateful. And when you can live your life being grateful no matter what situation you are in. Oh, I'm in traffic. It's going to take me an extra half hour to get where I want to go. Can you change it? You can't change it. So what good does feeling anxious do? It doesn't do any good. It hurts you. So if you can put yourself in a positive emotion in that place, I'm so grateful that I have this time to contemplate, to think about the wonders of this life, to look back at the great experiences that I've had, to think about how I can learn from the struggles that I've encountered. Take this time to pray, to meditate, to think in a positive way and feel grateful. Look out your window if you're in Utah, my goodness, and see the mountains up there, right? You can focus on the traffic and the accident and the horrors in the city and the smog, or you can look up and hopefully see the mountains one way or the other, right? And just think, wow, I get to live here, surrounded by this beauty all the time. Feel the gratitude before the thing, and then great opportunities will come. And then when they come, take the leap. That is how you create success by accident.